Hello. Can you guys hear me okay? What's happening, people? Oh, I haven't done this for a while. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. We've got Andrea here. We got My Knees Hurt. We got Jerry. Who else is here? Ben. What's up, Ben? All the way from Canada. How you doing, bud? Let's see. YouTuber, says Jerry. Good to see you guys. It has been a while. Ben Van Geese said it's been a while. It has been a while, hasn't it? He's over in the Netherlands. Good evening to you. We got Jerome's up in Montreal. He's in the house. What's up? Oh, man. Well, it's good to be back. I'm almost turned around from my jet lag. I had very little jet lag this week, actually. I think it was due to the fact that the trip home was actually super duper long. I flew back from Manchester, and the trip home was like epic because I had to go to Manchester to Atlanta, and I missed my connection because my flight was late leaving Manchester. So then I had a 3-hour layover in Atlanta. Anyway, long story short, it was like 23 hours of travel by the time I got home. And, you know, it was like 12:30 at night or something by the time I walked in my door. So I'd stayed up pretty late. And by the time I hit the bed, I was just like out. And woke up the next day after 7 or 8 hours of sleep at kind of normal time, like 8 a.m. LA time. And ever since then, I've been pretty good all week. Not too turned around. So it's good. JG Hill is in Shelby, North Carolina. He says, hi, what's up? What else we got here? How is life? Life's good. I had a good tour. That was Fuel Tube Sessions. Asked me how's life. I had a great tour. It was really fun, and it's really good to be home too. It's great to be back. It's nice to be able to walk around without my parka on. You know, it was not really that cold over there, I didn't find, but it is rainy and windy a lot and stuff, and cloudy, rainy, windy. So to be in some sun and stuff and be able to walk around with a t-shirt on, it's pretty exceptional. Feels good. But I had a great time. Brian says, amazing performance with CRS, the Classic Rock Show. Can't wait for next year. Thanks. Yeah, I felt like it was a really successful tour. Like people really had fun, and I had fun. I didn't know what to expect. You never know what to expect when you go with a new band. But it was really good practice. It kicked my butt as far as having to play a lot every night, and I feel like I needed it, and that was great, you know. And you know, my shoulder was sore all the time from wearing guitars every day, and like I tweaked my back from jumping around and all that good stuff because it's like gotta get out there and rock. Scotland checking in. Braveheart Reefer, what's up? Martin says he was at the Classic Rock Show in Dundee, and he said it was incredible. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I had fun there. I remember that one. 31 dates in the UK in 6 weeks. It was good, really good. Mark says he hopes I had a good time. I did. I learned a lot about the UK and about. It's a nice place to tour actually because all the little towns that we go to and kind of everywhere. It's very livable. Like you can walk pretty much from any one of those theaters we were playing at and find great food and coffee and, you know, within walking distance. I never felt like, you know, many times in America, it's like you'll get to a venue and it could be out in the middle of nowhere. And then you got to like, oh, how do I, you know, or a hotel you're staying at is out in the middle of nowhere. You know, and you kind of need like on the side of an interstate or something, then you need to take a 3-mile, you know, ride to get anywhere to a mall or something. It wasn't really like that there. Fine. It's a nice sort of very civilized touring, even for the style that we were doing it, which was quite a few people on a bus and stuff. What scumbacks do I recommend with a Marshall 412 and a JVM head? That's from Bill. Well, my favorite scumbag was always the M75. And I like the PVC version, the paper voice coil, because I felt like they just sounded woodier and more like old ones. So I would say some sort of M75 PVC. Originally, when he came out with the paper voice coil, it was only a 20-watt speaker, and he was very adamant that, you know, push them too hard because they had paper voice coils and they will actually light on fire if you push them too hard. But I think now he's figured out a way to make the paper voice coils in the higher wattage versions, like the 65. And so anyways, but the M75 was the one I always really liked. There's other good ones too, you know, if you're more of an H30 person, but that was always my favorite. I always felt like it was just like a nice warm greenback. Yeah, what else do we got here? Finally have a Sunday off to watch. Pete says, Jack, good to see you. Nice having all you guys here. Hello from Austin, says Jacques. Ben says, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you guys want to hit the thumbs up if you enjoy the program, I appreciate it. A friend of mine did set his on fire, says JG Hill Drums. That's interesting. So he actually caught one on fire. I've got a 20 watt somewhere, PVC. I have one of them and I never blew it up, but I was always pretty careful with it. So if you could only use one of your guitars, would it be your signature Suhr or new Super S style? I would say probably my signature. I love the classic that I got, but my face looks too pink, says somebody. Take care with the sun. That's just the light in here. It's not. It's just the webcam and all that. You know, it's very red in here all the way around me. My panels are all red, and I think that makes me look red. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. If I could only use one of my guitars, would it be my signature Suhr or the new Super S? Yeah, probably my signature, because I can get just about every tone out of them. With the coil taps and stuff. I mean, I show that in my clinic, like the tap neck position sounds great. So I can pretty much get out of that guitar like a gajillion different tones and sounds. And I can take, that was kind of the idea with that guitar, really was a bit of a jack of all trades, but a really quality jack of all trades. How did the PT15 do on tour as well as all your guitars? Says Guitar 77. Really good. It was awesome. So I ran the masters anywhere from about 3.5 to maybe a little over 4 on the channel masters. And then the overall master, I would have around 4. And that was plenty loud enough for any, I couldn't basically play it any louder than that, or it'd just be too loud on stage. So I think we've all been playing, you know, consistent in the house every night. It was really great. I loved it. And the guitars were all great too, really consistent, no problems. The classic that I have, the new one with the tortoiseshell guard and all that, it had a little bit of binding on the low E string in the nut, just because the nut slot was a little tight or something. That's one of those things that, you know, when you get a guitar and you go, oh, I need this little thing tweaked. But by then I was already out there and we didn't have nut files. So I just used a ton of graphite and nut. But now I've got it fixed. They fixed it for me the other day, the nice folks at Suhr. And so now it stays in tune as good as all my other ones. But I did have to, it was a little bit of a drop the bar and the low E would go sharp sometimes. So unlike my other guitars, and that's just a little minor setup thing. Are both channel 2 and channel 3 on your PT15 IR the same? Yes. With individual gain and level controls. Yes. Yeah, there's no difference. And of course, bright switches. So it's the same, you know, it's just 2 sets of gains and masters that you can then set for a solo gain and volume and a rhythm gain and volume. Exactly. No difference in voicing. It's funny, some people think there is, but you got to remember too, there's pot variation. So like you could set the masters and the gains exactly the same on the 2 channels. Switch and one side might seem slightly gainier or like slightly louder or slightly quieter, and that's just pots. Pot variation, I've been told it's as high as 20%, like in the sweep of the pot. That's a lot. So that's just something to know, but nothing we can do about that. I'm so glad you were in the Classic Rock Show this year, says Jazz KM998. Thank you. It's how I found the show, and after seeing the gig at Salford, I just had to book tickets for Liverpool afterwards. Awesome. Is that the one that we filmed the last night? That was pretty fun. I had a good time during that filming. It wasn't the most perfect show, but it was a blast, and I think it'll make for a cool video. You know, we had like I don't know, like 12 cameras or something or more. I don't know. It's gonna make an interesting show, hopefully. What else we got here? Let's see here. Looking for another question, comment, something. What do I think about Synergy and the Steve Vai module? And the new guitar he has. I don't really know much about the guitar. I haven't really looked too much into it. The Synergy module, I think, is really based off his legacy and what he was comfortable with. I know Dave Friedman helped dial it in, and he has a lot of respect for Steve, and so I'm sure it sounds really good. I haven't tried it. I have a Synergy chassis back here, and I'd love to actually maybe do a demo of it, and run it into my PT15 or something. I should hit them up about that, see if they want me to do that, because I'd be interested. Dave says it sounds great. That I don't know. I try to I didn't mind the Legacy amp. I tried one. God, they came out 20 years ago. I remember trying one, and borrowing it for a day from Carvin. I was touring with somebody, and I said, "Can I take one of these and see if this works?" It was a 212 combo amp, one of the original ones, and I thought it sounded pretty good because I had an Ecstasy, a Bogner, and I thought it was sort of similar. That slightly darker. Not exactly Marshall teethy grind. It was a little darker and smoother. Anyway, I'll look forward to trying it. I'm sure it's good. He's a picky guy. And Peter Urban is up in the top chat. He's in Canada. He says, "Welcome back. Having a good 6L6 power amp. One of my thoughts are Helix pre versus Synergy pre versus the real amp for a Dirty Shirley type sound." Having a good 6L6 power amp. Is there in the Helix? Is there a Dirty Shirley model now? I don't even know that. What would I use? Probably I would use a JCM 800 to try and get close. If there's not a, I haven't looked to see if there's in the latest in current. I'm a little slow on software updates and stuff, so you guys might have an update I don't have in my Helixes. But my thoughts on it. I mean, I've only directly really sort of compared, like, let's say the BE style, they call it the placator in the Helix, to the actual thing. I think it sounds great. There's still a difference, I mean, it's that thing of convenience and effects and everything built into the Helix that's there, and it's great for some things. And if I have my ultimate, what I want, it's always a tube amp. So it's still just as a tube amp. It's fast. It responds the way I like it to. And yet, I use the Helix and I like it, and it's just whatever gets the job done. If you're talking about your ultimate rig, I mean, I would probably use the Helix for effects and stuff, and then use the Synergy, much as like Steve Vai does, right? He uses a Axe Effects for his effects, digital stuff, and probably with a few pedals in front, and then is now using the Synergy stuff for the actual, so he's not using the, I sort of feel the same way. I still like tubes and stuff, but it's great to integrate these things. And the thing I do like about the Helix that's awesome is that if you got to go to a gig and you can't bring your power amp or your Synergy or whatever, you can just kind of recreate it in the Helix with your other effects around it. So it's a great thing to combine them both, I guess is what I'm saying. And they make that really easy for you. And I like that about the Helix, that they're not trying to make it everything, like all things to you. They're trying to make it like integrate with your existing guitar rig, I think. And then it's also this great standalone thing. So Anthony Fisher is in Fargo and he says, hello. Do I like the tracking on the H9? You mean like that's Philip. The Harmony? Yeah, it tracks great, I think. I mean, I used it on the tour that I was just doing. I was playing White Room, and I used it to create the harmony. The harmony parts in the intro, and then the re-intros and stuff. I actually just used the H9. It sounded great. It's cool. It never sounds exactly like the true harmonized. There's a slight synthetic thing to it. But if you just kind of tweak it and mix it just right, so it's just a little below the actual dry note that you're playing, it can sound really realistic once you're playing with a full band and everything, and track great. It can respond differently depending on your phrasing. Like if you play with a lot of vibrato, let's say, and you just start vibratoing a note, of course the harmonizer sometimes screws up and it's not going to lock right onto what you're doing. So you kind of have to be cognizant of that with what you're playing, I find. Also, like pickup position and stuff is important sometimes. It can work better like on a neck pickup. Something a little darker with less harmonics is like a more defined fundamental note, and that's good to be aware of with harmonizers sometimes, is that can make it imagine you're a harmonizer and you're trying to figure out what note you're supposed to be locking to, you know, and so that can be helpful. Sometimes like a darker tone, roll the tone back a little bit, use the neck pickup, all that stuff. Same reason a tuner responds well on the neck pickup, right? I don't know if you guys find that, but the bridge pickup can tend to jump around on a tuner more. But if you go to the neck pickup, especially if you roll the tone off, the needle tends to stay because you're limiting the harmonics, and it's just sort of more like fundamental note is coming through. Campfire Guitar Star is up in the top chat, also in Canada, I think. He says he's in the market for new speakers. Is it a good plan to use the reactive load box to audition Celestion IRs and then make an educated buying decision? I think so. It's not exactly the same as being in front of them, but yeah, it'll get you in the ballpark. Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the great things about modelers, I guess, and it's always the argument from the kind of the companies as well, the Axe Effects folks and stuff. If they're like, hey, let us model your amp, then people will get to try it that may normally never get to try it, and they might buy the actual physical amp. I don't know how that actually plays out. I kind of have mixed feelings about it, but it is kind of true. I mean, you can with speakers and pedals and amplifiers and stuff, if you can try a virtual version of it and go, oh, that's cool. I mean, it is the reason, actually, to tell you the truth, that I bought a Celestion G12M 55 hertz 1973 bass cone G12M, because I went and found one on Reverb because I liked the Ownhammer impulses of that particular speaker that I heard so much that I thought I got to get one of these and try it and actually get a real physical one day. So when I saw one online, I bought it, and that was the reason, because I tried an IR of it and I thought it was really cool. And they are neat. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move down a little bit here. Teamit73 says hi from El Segundo out by the beach. That's nice. Love the tour vlogs. I'm working on another one. That's Petrie says he liked the tour vlogs. I've got one more to finish, maybe two. Maybe I'll work on that a little bit later today and get one up this week. But I started recording videos, guys. I'm doing a Cyclone, the phaser from Crazy Tube Circuits. I started on that today. I've got an Infinity Looper version 2 from down here on the floor from Pigtronics. I got to knock that out and do another looper demo. It's always kind of fun, like that, different kind of come up with a cool piece of music and see if I can loop it. And yeah, I had 3 ideas that I was going to write down for videos today, for Tone Secrets videos, and I didn't write them down, and I really should, because I started getting ideas today. It's good. I've been away from making videos for a while, and it's like, even doing this, and it's like, I don't remember how to do this. And then you come back, and it's like, okay, here's an idea, and here's another idea. I was thinking about, like, a good one would be like how to dial in a 4-hole Marshall for cleaner sounds, like that one that's right back there. I lent this one right here to David Grissom a while ago while he was in town making a record, and it came back with some really interesting tone control settings and volume settings, and quite low on everything. And I thought, that's an interesting way to run a Marshall. And he, said, yeah, you can get some great clean sounds out of these things if you just set them up right. And it did sound really good with like a Strat and kind of a lower volume channels blended, jumpered, and all the tone controls below 5, like quite low, some of them. And I thought that would make a good video, like dialing in a Marshall for cleaner stuff with pedals. And it's not just about using the normal channel or whatever, it's more like how to set, because the tone controls on a 100-watt Marshall or a 50-watt Marshall 4-hole, be it a JTM45 or Plexi or whatever they are, they're all very lossy. You're basically subtracting frequencies unless everything's on 10. So if everything's all that turned up all the way on the tone controls, that's the most sort of wide open and out of the circuit that the EQ is. The second you start turning down things, you're actually sort of subtracting gain, actually. So especially in the mid-range control, it's really noticeable. If you turn that way down, you'll lose a little bit of distortion and drive. So you can get some nice clean sounds. So I thought I'd try and dial in a really, really nice clean tone or something and make a video about that. And I had some other ones that I was gonna do. Let's see. I should write down the ideas, though, was my point, before I forget them. I was in second row at Glasgow CRS gig, PT15 pedalboard, and the pedalboard sounded really good. That's Robert. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Glasgow. I'm trying to remember that show. I can't remember the venue right now. Blurring together a little bit right now. But yeah, the 15, man, it's a great amp. I love it. It was flawless. Yeah. Dear Pete, sing a song. Sing a song. Sing out loud. No, I'm too tired. This one goes to 12, exactly. Steve Roberts says, hey, Pete, how do you and David Grissom know each other? Ever played together? I think I met him at NAMM originally, but he's friends with my producer buddy, Ross Hogarth. And I think at NAMM, we were all standing talking at one point, and he was aware of me from YouTube, which blew me away because I was a big fan of his, and I learned a lot from his. He did an instructional video that's awesome if you've never seen it. It's like, he's just so kind of soulful, and I love his, like, he's got great chops, but he never overplays really. He's just a badass. And I think he's playing like a matchless amp in that video with his PRS, and it's a gold top, kind of like, I don't know if it was like before the McCarty, but it's sort of like a McCarty with a 22 frets and stuff. And but his tone in that video is so great. I don't know if it was REH or, I don't think so. I can't remember the company. Anyway, some of you out there will probably know what I'm talking about, but great instructional video, and I loved a lot of the licks. Andrew says the BE model only in the Helix so far. Yeah, so it really, if you were going back to the Dirty Shirley with 6L6's thing, I would try, if you were going to use a preamp or amp in the Helix, I would try the JCM 800, because that would be probably the closest thing to a Dirty Shirley. And Dirty Shirley is kind of like as I understand it, is a JCM 800 front end mated with a back end of a JTM 45. So 6L6 is a tube rectified. Yeah. Johnny says, I know Ross, great guy. I've known Ross for years. Actually, we share a gear locker together. I have some gear stored in a locker with him, so we're sort of roommates. He's a producer and mixer and stuff. What's my favorite overdrive to use with a telly? I'll tell you a great one. This thing, the little Timmy. This thing sounds awesome. MXR sent me one of these to try out, and it's so smooth and badass. It's one of those things where with the gain like at noon or below, it doesn't even really sound distorted. It just sounds fat. It's so smooth. I don't know how else to describe it. Really, really good sounding. So this I played this with my T and my Strat the other day, and I thought it was great. Highly recommended. They did a nice job on this pedal. For if you're like a Nashville guy or Americana or something and you want some drive, it's not hard rock sound, but it's a great sound. Great smooth overdrive. Blue House Music's up in the top chat up there, and I appreciate it. You didn't ask a question or anything, but thank you. Thanks for doing that. You guys are too kind. Do you know the name of those modules from Seymour Duncan? Are you guys talking about the old convertible amps? Yeah, I'm really dating myself now. Is that what you're talking about? The modules that they had with the plug-in one? My friend Al used to use those. Great guitar player and one of my oldest friends. And he had an amazing tone. He used to use those Duncan convertible amps. And I guess they were kind of a nightmare like to work on, and they were unreliable and stuff. But he had a great sound. That's all I know. Really great sound. What's my favorite overdrive used with the telly? Okay, I already answered that. And you said that. Welcome home. Thank you very much. Yeah. If they don't want me to turn it up all the way, they shouldn't have put all the way on the amp, says Quentin. That's a good point. Yeah. Steve says about David, he thinks it was a Hot Licks video and he had it. He thought it was awesome. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Hot Licks. Can you say hello to my new little bird, Emmett? You have a bird, Quentin. He digs your channel. Hi, Emmett. Emmett. Is he making noise? Is it an actual bird? Am I talking to a bird? Emmett. Have I played with the John Shanks Vemoram ODS 1 pedal? I haven't. I would love to make a video of it. They've talked to me about doing that. love to give it a try. I guess it's probably like the Nobles, right? I have Nobles. I have a couple different versions of them. I'm looking around as though I'm going to see it. I'm not sure where they are. They're somewhere in here. But what's best exercise advice for building clear speed picking, says Stretch. I used to work on the old Steve Morse video and the Paul Gilbert stuff. That's how I got my picking chops. Those two things. Paul Gilbert, Intense Rock 1. Licks, 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 licks. You know that one. That was like, I worked on it for 6 months, and then I could play like really fast. Not as fast as him, but almost. With a metronome. I just worked it, and then there it was. And I tried other things like the whole Frank Gambale sweep picking video, and I never bonded with that. And but the Paul one really clicked for me. Just that strict alternate picking really, and the way that he was very efficient about it worked really, really well for my picking anyway. So. Bill says he revisited my tutorial of Eruption. Best one out there. Thanks. Thank you. Jeff Beck, Evan says, used the Duncan modules for a minute. That's right. The convertibles. I remember he used those amps for a minute. He was, deep in with Seymour Duncan. They're good friends and stuff. And yeah. Interesting later on that Seymour didn't really do as much with Jeff. I wonder if they had a falling out or something. I don't know. It's like, I know the pickups Jeff uses now, the main set are Suhr designed. And John always says they're really weird. Nobody else would probably like them that much, but they work great for his, rolled off kind of, they're not very single coily. I think they're stacks or something. And John designed them for him in particular for his interesting way of getting his tone. Ian Ferguson is up in the top chat. Thanks, man. He says he has a Strat with older style angled trem bar and can't get used to Floyd arms and bridges with arms not angled. Have you had trouble going from your signature to vintage Strat bars? It's not dissimilar. I mean, my Strat that's in here, I would say, oh no, I sometimes have the bars angled. The Strat that I have here is set up with this is my old one, and it's set up with like Scott Henderson style, or like Beck, quite high. And I have to say it works awesome on this guitar. It stays in tune like crazy. And loosely, it should be about, I think, a whole step. Oh, no. That's how I set my other guitar. Sorry. Let's see what. So it's about a whole step on the second string and about a minor third on the third string is what I'm getting right now out of the bend. But anyway, you're asking more about the angle of the bar. If you look at the angle, it's like quite low and it's because the bridge is so, up like this. So it's actually like, now if I was to go to say this Suhr right here, it's going to be pretty. This one's actually even a little higher off the guitar. And on my signature guitars, I actually have John, generally, he'll put them in a vise and bend them for me before I leave the factory with the guitar. And so I get them kind of like the Strat, where I like them low. Like, ultimately, I'd like it like that on this guitar. This is a little hot, the angle of it's a little crazy for me. So I don't know. I guess I do try and get them somewhat consistent, and I like it where I can get my hand around it easily when I'm playing. That makes sense, and not have to reach up. But it's a little weird for me when it's way off the guitar. But you can bend them, So you like the angle, I guess, is what you're saying, Ian. Have you had trouble going from signature to vintage Strat? I think you like the angle and maybe the thing dipping. I don't. I tend to like the bar a little bit. I like a little bit of angle, but straighter and easier to get my pinky around or whatever. What's up with the green Suhr, the one in the thumbnail? The green Suhr is a really interesting guitar, actually. This is a great color. And you know, like paint suppliers and stuff, they don't sometimes they're not that consistent. And like this is an old, like this guitar came from Suhr around 2009. I got it, so I've had it 11 years. And this is a color called Cadillac Green, and a lot of people really love this color when I see it in person. Anyway, I mean, it looks pretty cool right now too, just on here. But it's like a custom color that Fender never made, you know. But what I was going to say about the paint suppliers is that like I've seen other guitars that they call Cadillac Green, and it never quite looks like this one. Like, because you know, like the manufacturer of the paint will like change something a little bit. And anyways, I just love this guitar. And I got this guitar when I started playing with Don Henley because I needed a good 3 single coil Strat. And I didn't really have anything like that at the time. I had lots of stuff with humbuckers, but nothing with 3 singles. And they had this guitar. Somebody had ordered it with a side jack. So, and they put a Strat jack in it by accident. And then the guy was like, oh, I didn't want the guitar. And his loss, because he'd also ordered it with just 1 tone volume. It's a little weird, right? But the guy said, I don't want the guitar. And so now they got this guitar lying around the shop. And I needed one. And they said, we got this guitar in the back. If you need a 3 single coil, maybe you can just take it. And I tried it. I'm like, this guitar is lovely, man. It's amazing. And it really is. It's got a fantastic neck on it. And I've been talking to John a little bit about the neck on this guitar. And he said, I probably shaped that. He told me the other day, he said I used to come in on the weekends. And, you know, I would shape a lot of the necks and do them myself. And he said, I bet that's one of those guitars. It's got just a little bit of V to it. That's so nice. And then kind of goes into a C up top where it's just a little less shoulder than I'm just not sure about that. But anyways, we've been having some talks about this neck shape and stuff because I really love it. It's got a real Brazilian board on it too, this guitar. So it's real dark and just, I don't know, it's cool. Love this thing. 3 V60 LPs. It used to have MLs in it, but I put V60 LPs. I like both those pickups actually. I like it both ways, and it sounds great. It's just a really good modern Spurs L's, and see it's got the Buzz Feeten, you know. So it's older. Suhr used to do the Buzz Feeten thing for a while, and yeah, the old style Spurs L locking tuners and stuff. It's just a really good one. A good, not super early, but relatively early Suhr. Yeah. All right. Moving down. Murray says he got here late and didn't expect me to be home. I'm home. I'm here. Timmy's a great one, especially after a fuzz, says Holy Motor the band. Yeah, can be good with a fuzz. I haven't tried that actually. I should try with a fuzz. I enjoyed having a couple fuzzes on tour. I was using specifically the Jimi Hendrix Mini fuzz face, and then also the Rock Your Repaired Amp Ryra Big Muff Green Big Muff clone. And I love that sound great. I used it on Comfortably Numb, and it sounded killer, I thought. Blue House Music says, Pete, we like your work and thank you for the music. Where do you see major differences when you compare the UA PT100 plug-in UAPT100 plug-in with the aux? So are you saying if I use my like a real amplifier with the aux and then comparing that with the plug-in? Well, I mean, there's going to be differences just generally speaking because of the speaker impulses, or they're not impulses. I don't know how they do it in the aux, but it's something else. But if they're not the same, then that's going to be a major difference right there, you know. And the ones, of course, in the UA are different. So it's like there's going to be differences there. But if you're saying like, is it as realistic? It's a great plugin, man. I mean, the PT100 plugin. A lot of people, I get a lot of feedback about it. People saying they think it's great. To be honest, it's all Brainworks. I mean, we didn't have much to do with it beyond sending them the amplifier and the cabinet, and then a couple of revisions. They sent one, and I was like, sounds kind of bloated. Like when I would set the amp controls on the plug-in, the same as where I would normally set the amp, it was too much low end and stuff. And then I said, yeah, this is weird. And they said, yeah, we're working on that. And then they sent me back another one. It was like, this is amazing. It sounds awesome now. So I think it's a wonderful plug-in amp simulation. It was also interesting actually to take a real PT100, load it down, and then run it into the plugin and only use the speaker simulation on the plugin without the amplifier portion, because you can turn off the preamp and power amp, but leave the speaker modeling in the plugin on. So PT100 out into a load box, reactive load, line out into my interface, and then through the PT100 plugin, but only speaker sim on. So now I'm using the real amp. Then I could directly plug right into my interface and the plugin, and using the same impulse response, turn on the amp, virtual amp, preamp and power amp. And it was really cool. It was like actually very like really close, I have to say. I mean, they did it when you hear it like that, it's like, wow, they did a really incredible job. So anyway, the plugin's great. No reservations about it. I've used plugins on my record. I used the PT wasn't available yet when I was doing my last record, but I used the Friedman BE100 plugin on the song L'Avenir. That's the main rhythm guitar tone. I think it sounds great. So, no doubt they've come a long way. Moving down in the chat here. What do we got online? Well, 378 people. Nice to have you guys here. Thanks for joining. And see what else we got here. How does the Timmy compare to the King of Tone? I've never directly A-B'd them. I mean, this is the first, to be honest, it's the first Timmy I've had. I know there's all that Bemeram controversy and with the Jan Ray and all that stuff. To be honest, I don't know the owner of the company that made the Timmy. I have no idea how close they actually are, and I've never played a real one before this. So like the original one, I never had one. It's one pedal I just never got my hands on. But this thing's awesome. So they did a really nice job on it. And it, I don't know, it sounds really good. I've got all the controls if I'm looking at it anywhere between kind of 10 and 2, and it sounds terrific like that. Your question about the King of Tone, I would say it's probably in a similar category to the King of Tone, especially the side. I never really used the red side or the hot side on a King of Tone very much, but I like the green, the cleaner side a lot. Like really cool, rootsy, sort of transparent overdrive or whatever. I love that, especially for like kind of rhythm guitar playing or kicking the front end of an amp a little bit. It had a great sound. And I would say that this is similar. Once again, I'd have to directly A-B to really offer an opinion. Craig says, have I ever used any D-Lysol amp speaker switches? Thoughts versus the Amp Pete? I haven't. I've never heard of that other one. Amp Pete works great, so I've just been using that. But is that the D-Lysol or D-Lysol? Is that the one from Spain? I know there's another one. Tim Pierce has one that, and I haven't tried it. I guess I've played it in his studio, but I wouldn't really put one through the paces, is what I'm saying. I'm wondering if that's the same company. Let's see here. Braxall says there was another part of my original question about Steve Vai. Do I think it's too much signature stuff to really buy? I mean, nothing bad about it. I just want your opinion. You mean the guitar and the, if you like Steve Vai, I mean, it's like, and that guitar speaks to you, I've never had one, but I remember when I was a kid, like 16, it was funny. I remember my the guy that I was in a band with, who's a great guitar player, this kid Jim Law, he got one, the original green ones, and I remember he wouldn't let me play it. It was funny. It's like, can I try it? No. What? Like, no, I want to keep it like, and that's extra funny now that I think about it. It's like, how kids are, but it's extra funny because he had really acidic sweat, I remember. So it's like, well, dude, I'm not going to screw up your guitar any worse than you are. I just remember he wouldn't let me play it. I was like, God, kids could be weird. He was my friend, but yeah, no, I don't want anybody else playing it, just me. So silly. But anyway, he had one of the green ones. And I love Steve. I loved the original, like when he was playing Charvels. I loved his green mini guitar and stuff. And I loved I guess I was a bit of a traditionalist because I love the shape of a Strat and traditional Strat body. I mean, I guess, you know, my own guitar is a scaled down. It's the Suhr standard body shape or whatever. But I love that, generally those curves. When it got into the gem and then the monkey grip and stuff like that, and the things that were different about the shape, I didn't like it as much as when he was playing Charvel. That's just me. So I never got one of those guitars because I was always like, well, I kind of like, I was more a Charvel fan or something. A little bit closer to like, just I love that sort of modified Fender thing as opposed to the you know, different inlays, and then everything was a little bit different on the guitar. And so, do I think it's too much signature stuff? I don't know. You know, I always talk about in my clinics how my gear, my signature stuff is interesting. We talk about this for a second. I say in my clinic, you know, that I am a guitar player that's kind of I'm not a jack of all trades, but I mean, I'm a sideband, and it's my job many times to fit in with a band and I don't want to say not stand out, but you're there to support the artist, you know? And in order to do that, if I had an instrument that was super, you know, I use John Petrucci and I use Steve Vai as examples of guys that they're artists 100%. They don't tour as sidemen really with other people. I mean, Steve did, but he was also known as a rock star guitar player, kind of almost right from the beginning. And a stylist, and you wanted that thing in your band if you got him and everything that went along with it. Most sidemen, we don't have that. I don't want to say luxury, but it's like, because God bless Steve, he's a genius in a career. I mean, sort of a stellar career doing that. That would be the dream to be that, I guess, you know. But most of us, as you guys know, you got to fit in with different, you know. You're playing with Melissa Etheridge or Don Henley. See, I feel like I could go and play my signature guitar with a more hard rock band, or it would fit in an even more like singer-songwriter setting, you know, do you know what I mean? Whereas if I took a Steve Vai gem guitar, that's not really gonna fit in an Americana kind of setting. If you look at my original guitar, the one that the signature line was based off of, I was trying to make something that looked just super classy, that would, you know, fit, like it's definitely rock and roll and all that, but it's also like understated with the red and the black and kind of like just a really, really classy instrument. This is the prototype. This one doesn't have the pickup rings and stuff, but this is what it was based on. And it's just like, yeah, I wanted to make something that I could go in and play in any situation. So what's my point? Well, my point is with the signature gear, I think the more that, and I think it's worked really well for me, because this guitar you're not going to get it and it's going to scream Pete Thorn signature. You know, you can get it and use it in your band, and people be like, oh, that's just a nice guitar. You get something like a Majesty or something from Ernie Ball, you know, one of the Petrucci. It's crazy shapes and stuff. Cool. I'm nothing. I mean, it's great. Like, but you are then. And I think maybe the Steve Vai guitars are a little bit like that. Am I making sense? It's like you're going whole hog into that look and stuff, and everybody's going to know that's a Steve Vai guitar. It's a little like the Killer guitars from Akira from Japan. You know, they've got that really distinct headstock and the 4 and 2 thing, and the, you know, everything about them is kind of very distinct. So I was trying to make a guitar that's like, you know, just fits in a lot of situations, like a gigging tool that wouldn't almost, I want to say doesn't stand out or isn't unique, because I want it to be unique, but it's a fine line, right? You know, fine line. So if the guitar, I guess I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, if you love his tone, I think amps and things like that are a much more understated. I mean, you know, if you love his tone, you love that sort of slightly darker, distorted voicing that Synergy module will probably give you, go for it, you know. Dave Friedman told me he sounds amazing playing through it, and he goes, yeah, his tone's incredible when he's playing it. It sounds, you know, that's probably, you know, mostly in his hands, but you know what I'm saying. Anyways, yeah. King of Tone is very fat, says Glenn. Yeah, the red side is of the King of Tone, but I think the other side is quite, it's got a fatness to it, but it's also a natural thing too. And this reminds me of that too, a little bit, like you know, like you just crank the amp up or whatever. That's what I remember about the green side of the King of Tone. What's a good practice routine, says Jason? Geez, I don't know. I've just overloaded on YouTube vids. Yeah, you got to pace yourself. I mean, my practice routines are always centered around work, to be honest. I don't maybe just play enough to, I mean, I wish I had more of a discipline or time to just play and learn new concepts and things like that that aren't involved with work. But my practice routine, I've got a show coming up in a couple of weeks and I got to learn, I don't know how many tunes, 10 or 12 tunes probably for it. So that's going to be my next focus is when I'm not in here working, making a pedal video or something, it's going to be working on learning tunes and it just always seems to go that way. Some more work comes up and then you're focused on that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Make playlists of the YouTube videos and put them in there so that you can go back and reference them later. But Tim Pierce had a great perspective on the YouTube thing, to not get overloaded and feel like, God, there's so much I want to learn. I'm not learning any of it. He was like, if you could just get one thing from a YouTube video, from every video, then you've gotten somewhere, like one lick or one concept, and absorb it into your playing. You don't have to like absorb the entire thing. And I think there's a lot to be said. And truth be told, like almost every instructional thing, video, whatever that I've ever learned, I'm not getting more than like 20% of the information. I'm like absorbing one lick or one concept or one whatever from that thing. Maybe other people are more efficient at it, but that's what I've found. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What controller am I using these days? I'm using a Tenzura. I remember seeing a crocodile tail loop on your board. No, I've never used a crocodile tail. I know those, but I don't have one. I used Musicom Lab for going on almost 10 years, I think. But yeah, about 10 years now. Started with the original Mark III, I think. Maybe Mark II Plus or something, and then Mark III. I think the one I have now is a Mark V, I think. Mark IV, Mark V. It's the latest one. Yeah. Moving down. You guys are talking about Vox headphone amps. Yeah, I know those are supposed to be cool. Those little Vox plug in the guitar kind of headphone amps. Supposed to be pretty good. I've got those new Boss Waza headphones. I used them a bit out on the road. They got me a set while I was out there, and they're really cool. Little jack, wireless jack goes in the guitar and then transmits to the headphones, and they sound really good. It was a nice little practice solution for backstage and stuff. Any suggestions about using pedals in the Helix effects loop, balancing levels, etc.? Not really. I have my board at home that is a little torn up right now, but actually it was originally, designed for the Helix and then 3 pedals, and I just had a Keeley GC2 limiter, an Archer, and other pedal. Fuzz. I had a Crazy Tube Circuits Starlight on there, still on there, but I took the Helix off because I had to fly the Helix somewhere. The only thing about putting the Helix on a board with a few pedals is then like it becomes fairly big, then the board, and you're like, oh, now I got to go somewhere, and really I just wish I was taking the Helix, so I ended up pulling it off. But maybe the thing is to try and make a small board with mini pedals like this. Put one of these on there, and the other thing is that when you put the pedals on the board with the Helix, what I found was actually the pedals in the Helix are pretty great. Like the Minotaur cloney clone thing is pretty damn close to the Archer when I'm running it the way I run it, which is just for a bit more mids and drive in front of an already dirty sound. I can almost nail the Archer sound with it. Compressor, the GC2 is nicer than anything that I found in the Helix, but you know what I mean? Like when it gets down to brass tacks, it's like, I can probably make this work with just the stuff that's in the Helix, So I guess that balancing levels and stuff is just the same as using it with anything. I mean, maybe you're asking do I set it at pedal level or do I set it? It just depends on, I guess, the pedals that you're using and how you've got your Helix plugged in and integrated with your amp and stuff. If you are even using an amp, maybe you're just using the pedals with the Helix Direct. That's the thing. It's a tough one to you'd have to tell me, well, I'm using these pedals and I'm running it like this, you know. If I sign my Fender Strat, could I call it my signature guitar? Says Stealth Parrot. I don't mind if you do that. I think you should do whatever you want to do. I'm spelling like I'm drunk, says Preston. I should take a break. Take a break, Preston. It's Sunday, for God's sakes. My signature guitar is a Les Paul. Has that been done? Says Guitar Hack. Good old Les, the only guy to have a signature guitar that also has other people using it as a signature guitar. The Slash Les Paul. You know. Yeah. Jason says, thanks for answering my question. You bet. Looking down in the bottom of the chat here, what noise gates do you like, or don't you play at such crazy gain levels? Generally, I don't use that much gain, but this room is noisy. So like it's got a lot of RF that comes in the pickups, which drives me nuts. But it's one of the things about this room that's not great, but I make it work. And this is the one that I've got on my desk right now. TC Sentry. This works pretty good. I find the MXR Smart Gate, or Dunlop Smart Gate, that's pretty good too. On my pedal board in loop 5, I have a little Moore noise gate. That's a one knob thing, and it's only for the lead sound. And I was using that just because it was like I'd get a lot of hiss out of the Rocket Archer going in front of an already dirty cranked sound. And she'd turn on the channel, and even with the volume down on the guitar, I'd be like, a lot of that. And it was coming out of the pedal. A lot of it's just part of the design of the Klon. So I put a gate in there after, but it only comes on in that loop. But anyway, I guess my main ones for the last few years have been the Sentry pedal, which I'll use in here sometimes when I feel like I'm trying to record a video and I've got, you know, if it's a choppy part and I'm stopping playing and then there's all this noise and I don't want to go deal with it later, the DAW, and cut out those parts or whatever, because it is that kind of, this is a noisy room. It's funny, man. It's like, you know, I forgot. I mean, on tour, it was like we get into some of these theaters, even Liverpool, where we were filming, noisy as shit, that room, like super RF-y, a lot of stuff coming in the pickups. James had a hell of a time, the other guitar player, because wherever he was on stage, and he was using a fair amount of gain with like a telly that had, you know, single coils, and it was just like a lot of buzz. So anyway, we'll fix it in the mix. Vincent is in the top chat. Hey man, he says he's looking for 2 humbuckers for a Strat build that he's looking to honor his dad's 1967 Corvette Stingray. I'm stumped on how to capture the vibe of that car sonically. Vintage, sporty, throaty, badass. What might you do? Interesting. What color is it? I wonder. 67 Corvette Stingray. That's a cool car, man. I would probably have to do something that's kind of hotter than my pickup, I would say, even maybe, you know. If it, what's the, I would probably go with it. Like if it was a Suhr pickup, I'd probably use a SSH in the bridge and maybe a Thornbucker neck or SSV neck. It's about a 12K pickup, I think. And that'd be cool. Hot, but not too hot. For other pickups, I mean, I love the kind of hot PAF vibe of the, what the hell is it? The Motor City Second Degree Black Belt. It's a great sounding pickup. That's the pickup that's in my Van Halen-y Strat that's got the tortoiseshell pickguard and it's black. It's a great sounding hot PAF. It's bright and sizzly and kind of, I don't know, I have to compare it to a car. I would probably do something like that in the bridge. Vintage, sporty, throaty, badass. When I think of the Second Degree Black Belt, I think of that kind of. That'd be cool. Yeah, man. I was wondering, man, maybe I should come out with a pickup like that. That's something a little more for folks that want to drive an amp a little bit harder with a humbucker, and I'm not so worried about being clean. I would probably do an offset, like a hot, not necessarily hot PAF, maybe more like the short magnet T-top style pickup, but maybe a little bit hotter, like an 8-point. You know, it'd be cool to have like a kind of like a 8-point, you know, 7K Alnico 5 pickup, something like that, or 9K. Kind of hot and sizzly. That'd be neat too. It is a cool sound. I just find it starts to paint you into a corner a little bit if you're trying to play cleaner. But you could make a really good pedal out of Evan says you could make a really good board out of mini pedals these days. I agree. Yeah. Thanks again, Vincent, for doing the top chat there, my friend. Appreciate that. The live top chat thing at the top. Yes. Are you doing the Floyd thing in the US, says Cujo? No. Are you talking about Brit Floyd? No. No. That's different group of characters. Same organization, though, as the folks that do the classic rock show. Yeah. Okay. Looking. What are you guys talking about? Talking amongst yourselves about streaming from an iPhone or something when you're practicing. Jason says Lake Placid Blue is my dream guitar color. Where's my blue? Crap? I've got one in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. You guys haven't seen this yet. I should show you this. You may remember this blue classic. This guitar got a new neck recently. It's pretty cool looking, right? 21 fret. It's got a little bit of bird's eye. Roasted. So this guitar originally had a very thin neck on it and it had a rosewood fingerboard and had the stepped headstock on it, the hybrid headstock. And I never really bonded with the neck of the guitar. It was, once again, it was a guitar that I didn't order or anything like that. It was a guitar I needed for touring. Once again, something I've had about 10 years or something like that. And I needed another guitar for tour, so I got it from Suhr many, many years ago, but I never really liked the thin neck. And so this is what they call their 60C standard, I think. And it's got a 9 to 12 compound radius, and it's a lovely guitar. So they just renecked it for me. It's a 21 fret vintage style, you know, nice guitar. Pretty cool. And it's Lake Placid Blue in honor of our friend Jason. Yeah. What else do we got here? Wish I could send a pic here, says Vincent. Yeah, I'd love to see that car. I'm sure it's super cool. A Very Dead Horse says go with an EVH Wolfgang set. They're pretty cool pickups. I really like them, actually. Yeah, Gary seconds my recommendation of the Sentry noise gate. I agree. It's really good. It's a good noise gate. If you're not playing fuzz, what pedal would you use for a Hendrix type of sound? Well, I mean, if you're not, yeah, but you need the fuzz for many of his signature, you know, things. I mean, you kind of need a vibe, an Octavia, and a fuzz face and a wah. And if you have those things, you know, and Keeley makes that one pedal that does everything except for the wah in one. So that could be a good thing to check out if you're looking to kind of do the Hendrix thing. And, you know, do all that. I've actually got these guys, the MXR. When I took the fuzz face on the road, you know, I got some of these from MXR to check out, and these are all the so there's everything. You could just put all these on a board and then have the fuzz and then a mini wah, and you'd actually have a Hendrix rig. So there's one of these is the Axis fuzz or something, like, so it's a little more aggressive than the fuzz face. So like silicon fuzz, and then there's a vibe, and then there's an Octavia. This is the octave. Anyway, those are the pedals you really need, I think, to do his trip. Man, it was fun playing. I got to play, you know, really childlike, and use fuzz face, and I used a vibe setting in my Mobius just to add a little bit of vibe in the down section in the middle, and that was fun. I would turn that on. But the fuzz face and the wah, and I just used the mini one, the mini wah and mini fuzz face, and it sounds great. Like in front of my amp set, fairly dirty actually, PT lead channel with the gain on about 6. Yep. Yeah. Moving down in the chat. Let's see. Pete, can I upgrade my guitar with better pickups, says Airma. Absolutely. You can do that. Arthur says he likes Jim Wagner pickups, formerly WCR. I didn't know that they changed their name. I had a set of the Crossroads pickups in my Les Paul for a while. They were pretty cool. They were a little dark for my tastes. Like they didn't really do to me that airy PAF thing, that fat telly on steroids thing. They had more of a darker kind of sound, but they did sound pretty good. I had them in an R9 for a while. It's the only set of WCRs that I've used. What's my favorite YouTube guitar channel? That's a good question. I have to think about it before I love Paul David's. I mean, I think his videos are just really lovely, watchable. You know, it's like watching very professional. Just funny because mine are kind of like hacky in comparison when it comes to lighting and editing and all that stuff, you know. But he just makes such great videos. And he's a likable guy, and his videos have a lot of good info, and they're really watchable. So I love him. Obviously, Tim. It's hard to pick one because a lot of friends now that do it. Tim Pierce. I mean, how can you not love the info you would get from him, right? Yeah. What's Stealth Parrot says, has anyone tried the Neck Illusions fingerboard overlays? Saw them on Jennifer Batten video, and they look amazing. Haven't seen that. See, I learn about things here too, all the time. What is it like? A fingerboard overlay, and then it's for like learning scales or modes or something like that. That could be cool. Sounds interesting. Let's see here. Is Suhr here? Suhr's in the house somewhere. There he is. Thornbuckers are the best. Thanks, John. I was saying that he was saying he wanted the vibe of his Corvette, a 67 Corvette, echoed in a guitar. And I said, actually, if I was going to use a Suhr pickup, I might put the SSH for, 427 big block, whatever those cars were. I don't know. But an SSH and a SSV or an SSH and Thornbucker neck, I was thinking might be a. But thanks, John. Good to have John here. Come on, he's a legend. So I was out and we hung this week, and I watched him work for a while, and it's truly astounding to watch the way that he works on guitars without even thinking about it, doing things that I would destroy the guitar in 10 seconds. I compared it to when you see a musician play and they just seem effortless, and you're like, well, what are they doing? How are they doing that? That's like John working on guitars. He's, but he had an aura on the bench, and then he was, it's got a slight compound radius, I believe, the fingerboard, and he's sanding the board while he's talking to me using this big piece of metal with sandpaper on the bottom of it. I'm like, how do you not sand the radius out of the board when you're doing that? Like, how do you know just how far to go with it? And he goes, I don't know. You just do it by feel. And also he was bending fret wire, and compound radius, one end is a little bit more curved than the other end, and he was cutting the wire, and he was bending it as he was taking it off the spool, and then he held it up to the radius gauges, 10-inch radius and 12-inch radius, and it was perfect the way I was like, how did you do that? How did you bend the wire more on one side than the other? He goes, I don't know, you just put a little bit more pressure like on one end, and then just know how much to do. And little things like that he just does effortlessly. He's like working on guitars, and this is really interesting to me. And then I was watching how he cuts putting frets in a guitar that's got binding is always difficult because you can't have the tang cut through the binding, so you got to go through and cut the tangs on the end just right. So he was cutting all the wire for all the and then cutting the tangs and doing all that stuff while we were hanging. It was nice to watch him work. Yeah, John. Yeah, man. Musicians should play music full time, says Keating. Well, I agree, but I guess we all can't do it. Some of us, because You know, it can be tough depending on where you live and what your family obligations are and all that kind of stuff. I do my best to, well, I've made it since the 90s with no day job. So there you go. Somebody's suggesting 5-watt world. My knees hurt. Says he likes 5-watt world videos. That's cool. Yeah. Abrax1 says, what patch cables are you currently using on your boards? What do you recommend? I use the Providence cable mostly on my boards. I think I'm pretty sure my whole main pedal board is Providence. Oh man, I'm forgetting right now, and I don't have the board here. I think that's what we used. But anyway, it's nice. They make these really low profile little ends that are only like, you know, so the jack comes out and then the end is like only like that. It's not like a big switchcraft thing, and that's nice. Fed up with solderless cables failing at the gig. Yeah, I wouldn't use solderless cables ever. I would use the soldered Providence on the board. John Suhr in the house, says Tom. Good to have him here. The Jim Wagner Fillmore pickups are amazing. I remember, that's Arthur saying, I remember that set. I mean, this is going back quite a while. You had the Crossroads and the Fillmores, and those Crossroads are the only ones I ever tried. Do the Suhr single coils have a noise reduction circuit? In the guitars that they sell, they do. They've got their, what's it called? The Silence SSC. And I believe the system they use now is called the SSC2. And it's a silent system that does not change the tone of the guitar at all and works great. It's not something you can buy, I don't think, though. John will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they don't sell that as an aftermarket thing. It's only in the guitars that they make. Singal says, how are the auras coming? John's working hard on them. I think he says he thinks he's going to have them all done by the summer or something. That was what he was saying to me, that they're all going to be out. But hey, come on. He's doing a good job on them. And once people get their guitars, they're going to forget about the weight. It's worth it. If you get a guitar that, if you see the masterful work I saw him doing this week, it's like, it's worth the wait. It's awesome. Harley Hex says, I would only try the Thornbuckers in one of my guitars if I could get the pickup switching options that are in Pete's. You can wire the 5-way like that in any guitar. It's not a big deal. It's just I'm sure they would tell you how to do it. Nice folks at Suhr Customer Service if you want to put a Thornbucker set in a guitar with the switching. Yeah. Let's see. Preston says, when you see a cheap pedal in a shop, don't hesitate to ask if you can try it. Some low-cost stuff is going to sound cheap, but there are the occasional gems. Yeah, there was, what was that tube screamer that was really cheap? The Green Monkey or something from Digitech? They were like $29. And everybody was like, this is a good sounding tube screamer. Or when I think about like some other good cheap pedals. Some of the Dan Electros were great, like really good. Yeah, some nice inexpensive pedals out there for sure. I love those videos that get into the backstory behind historically important gear. I agree. That's from George. Yeah, some of my favorites to do were like the one I did, on Marshalls or the Super Reverb or different stuff like that. It can be fun to talk about gear that was used on classic recordings and things. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, the Bad Monkey, Chicken Salad Vibe, Rocky Road Rotary. It's Buzz. I remember my Line 6 Roto machine. Great Leslie pedal. That worked really well, not expensive. Or the Echo Park, also like one of Tim Pierce's favorite delay pedals, and I loved it too. It had a great Memory Man vibrato mod analog style delay in it. Really nice. Yeah. Some good pedals that aren't too expensive. George says he's got a modded and rehoused $20 Dan Electrofab flange on a board with pedals ranging up to $500. Yeah, whatever works. The Echo Park rocks, says Doug Doppler. I agree. Really good pedal. I've got one somewhere. It's heavy. That's the only thing. They're like bricks, those things, you know, for the size, but it is really good. Really nice for a vibey delay. Evidence audio solderless is great. Been using for years and never an issue, says Matthew. Yeah, I'm terrified of solderless cables, but they always seem to go bad. But so I just use what I know works. But yeah, Pete the Edge, guitar hero, genius, or fraud? His career speaks for itself. I love the Edge. I think his tone is always exceptional. And he came up with memorable, awesome guitar parts that's actual songs. So he's a songwriter, you know. I like songs at the end of the day, you know. I don't more than guitar hero stuff. I like music, you know, that moves me with vocals and drums and bass and everything all coming together in harmony to make a lovely, listenable outcome. So I'm a big Edge fan, actually. Have you seen It Might Get Loud? He's great in that, and you get to really see his. You know, I love the juxtaposition of him against Jack White in that movie, where Jack says, like, in 1 second, he's like, "Well, I definitely use technology to. It inspires me and it drives me, and it's, you know, it's definitely feeds my creativity," or whatever he said, and then. Jack White in the next scene says, "Technology is absolutely the enemy of creativity." And there's no right answer. It's just two different, you know, that's why it's art. So for some people, they're gonna, you know, be drawn to that, and other people are going to be drawn to, you know, and I like I say, I'm a big fan of both those guys. So. Somebody's asking where the hell their child support money is from me. I don't have a child, so that's a funny one. It's never popped up in my live stream. Where's my child support money? Alrighty. Are there monsters behind Pete's white door? Probably. Let's see here. Edge equals genius. Yeah, I mean, he's a. Anybody ever seen U2 live? They're awesome. When I saw them at the Rose Bowl last year, and I had a great time. It was an excellent show, and it was great to see a band of 4 people that it's just those 4 guys forever. You know, they've been around since God, it's like 40 years or something now, right? And same 4 dudes, and they're a band, and they sound and play like a band. It's awesome. A Very Dead Horse says, he's up in the top chat, he says, I already have a Victory preamp, drives and overdrives I love. I can't decide whether to get a Helix Stomp or the TC Plethora to do the rest. I haven't really looked at that new TC thing yet. It looks cool. If you like the, you know, the flashback delay and the Corona chorus and all those pedals, I mean, they make some great pedals. You know, maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what would be. I'll say that TC thing looks a little bit more like the instant access is a little more, you know, like you're going to be able to turn off individual effects a little bit easier than like something like the Stomp, which is, you know, a little smaller, more compact, but it's going to be a little bit more of a preset kind of affair, I think, as opposed to the Stomp pedal board. I would say actually the better comparison would be the Helix HX effects to the TC Plethora, to be honest. At which point you'd have a little bit more apples to apples, you know. And the HX effects is still quite compact, and I really like it actually. It's great. I look forward to trying that TC thing too. Do you find yourself going through periods of time when you lean more on a telly sound or gravitating towards or less Paul tone more than anything else? Just a personal choice. That's from Arthur. Well, I find myself going between, yeah, like I would say more like Les Paul and Strat. Telly is a little bit more of I've only owned a couple different Telly style guitars and an actual Telecaster for a few years, really. And I only came to appreciate Tellys in the last few years, and they're great just simple planks of wood that are very, but my favorite single coil guitar is still a Strat because I grew up with one, the body shape and the arm contour and the tremolo and all that is, so I would say for me, it's a little bit more like between a Strat and a Les Paul. But yeah, I go back and forth where, I might play them. And obviously my signature guitar is kind of trying to combine both of them into one instrument. And that's the guitar I probably play the most, to be honest. So, most of the time. Jason says, my number one guitar hero is the Edge, by the way. Yeah, I love the Edge. It's unique. You know it's him right away, too. When you hear his parts come on the radio, it's like, well, there it is. It's the Edge, That speaks volumes. Best distortion, according to you guys, says Aaron Ma. God, there's so many. How can there be a best? So many different ones. Just depends on what you want, I've also used Evidence solderless, and I've never had even the slightest problem, says Gary. They're a high-quality cable manufacturer. I mean, I'm sure they're not cheap either, right? So I'm sure if they were going to put something out, they probably did it right. Cool music doesn't have to be hard to play, says Halface. Absolutely. I would agree 100%. It's not about how hard it is, Pete, do you know Buckethead? I've never met him, but maybe I have, and I don't know because nobody knows who he is, right? I guess his close friends must know. I wonder if he still wears the bucket even around his close friends, and they don't even know. Never thought about that before. 1986 Strat says, hi, Pete. What's a good Marshall in a box type pedal to use with a Fender black face amp? There's a few. I would say, I'm a pretty big fan of the Bogner Blue. Works really well for a plexi type thing. I like their Lagrange pedal too. The Revival Drive is exceptional from Origin Effects, either the small one or the bigger one. They both, you could definitely tune them into whatever amp you're using because they're so tunable as far as the bright switches and stuff like that. And it made them to be able to work through almost any amp. So I would say those two, like Bogner Blue or the Revival Drive. As far as straight up Marshall style, used to be this pedal called Ramble FX, and they had a nice Marshall-y pedal too. It was cool. There's so many, to be honest. I mean, I could probably think of more. Even if I just look around right now. Number 5 distortion from CKK or Sinvertech. That's a really, really good distortion pedal. That's not expensive, a little bit tough to find the States. What else have I got here? This pedal is really cool. I mean, I might be getting a little bit away from, straight up Marshall, but this Red Rocks distortion, you can see that on a video I made recently. It's a really good kind of hot, gainy Marshall-y sort of thing, I guess. But the best to me is probably the Origin, the best ever made, as far as like a pedal that cops that vibe really well. Marshall in a box. Yeah. Do I ever get a chance to perform classic Chuck Berry live, or is it deemed too old school? I think maybe the first song I ever played live was Johnny Be Good, probably, at like my guitar teacher's recital concert that he held every year. I want to say I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so I've done it, but that's about it back then. Pete, do you have a favorite demo you've done, and which is it and why? From Doug Doppler. I'd have to really think about that. I go back and I watch some of them, to be honest, and I'm like, damn, that's a cool tone. Or sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm underwhelmed by the composition, or like, oh, I could have like put in a little bit more, done something more original, or I'll think it's a little trite or something. But then sometimes I watch them and I'm like, damn, that's like good. Like a good tone and a good piece of music. That's how I got the songs for my last record from, was, I'd forgotten that I'd done some of them. And I go back and I look at them all and I'm like, this is a lot of work. Like I've worked really hard on these things. You forget sometimes because it's just work. You do it, you put it out, and then you move on, you work. But then when you go back and you start watching and you spend like half an hour or something looking at some of them and you go, God, this was like 2013 or 12 or something. And I forgot I even did this piece of music, and I remember, and then you remember I did, like, yeah, I worked for 3 days on this thing or whatever, 3 days of your life or whatever, and listen to this is funny. Maybe the one that John, if he's still here, he always liked was that second pedal board that I had done. I wrote a whole piece of music where I demoed the pedal board, and I tried to use almost all the pedals on the board in the composition. Maybe that's one of my favorites because it was like a challenge, you know, and I really liked the way the tune turned out too, and all the sounds and everything. But it was a challenge to get every pedal, you know, in a piece of music. So it's the one that's called Pete Thorn 2014 pedal board or something, I think I called it. And yeah. Stealth Parrot says, as Jack White makes a guitar from a 2x4 and a wire. Yeah, that's right, where he bolted the pick. That's a great scene, and it might get loud. Stradivarius says, does anyone know which delay pedal has the ability to soften the delay? You can dial back the delay attack. To me, it's like, and this is one of the things I thought about making a video about, is how to use delay and get a high level of mix going, but without it overtaking your tone, especially for lead guitar parts and stuff. And a big part of it is softening the delay using the, you know, anything with a tone control. So for example, on a DD500, you can do this easily with both the dampening and the tone controls that allow you to, you know, close down the top end on the delay. So a DD500 will do that. Strymon lets you darken their delays, and I also find that it's helpful to actually lop off low end, so maybe up to 250 or 300 hertz or something like that. Filter out lows, filter highs all the way down to, you know, if you want to go really dark, you can go all the way down to 900 hertz or something, and then it starts sounding like a whole DM2 analog delay or something with no top end. But it down to certainly like 2K or 2.5K, and then the lows up to about 300 hertz. And you can do that easy, like I say, on a DD500. What are some other delays? I mean, I guess easy to do in any plugin as well, generally speaking. And what you'll find then is that you can push the mix higher, because you're essentially turning down the mix on certain frequencies, right? You're limiting the bandwidth of the delay, and you're making it so that it's you know, a much more sort of mid-focused delay, and then it has the effect of not clouding up your core guitar sound and just sort of sitting behind the core guitar sound, because there's not as much clarity as what it is. So you're making the delay less clear and less fat. You're letting the original tone be fat, clear, full, and then the delay be this smaller, more mid-range centric thing. And it tends to work really well. Jason Carter says delay is our friend. I would agree with that. Let's see what else we got here. What other questions we got here? Comments or anecdotes or asides? Groomed Noodler for the SL67 is a contender. Contender for what? I always like that song too. Oh, my favorite video. I think you're talking about. Yeah, that was really just supposed to be a amp demo, and then it turned into a song that I was like, hey, I'm going to put this out. Any thoughts on the new Line 6 Pod Go? Not yet. They asked me to actually look at the presets and provide some opinion on what I thought, and I never had time because I was going on tour, so that didn't end up happening. But so I haven't really checked one out. Had I not been on the road, I probably would have had one to look at, and I'd have an answer for you. Okay. What else? What else? Brought the Source Audio multi-wave distortion after watching your video years ago. What is my thoughts on it now? That's from Jez Bass. I think it's a really cool pedal. That was actually, I remember the song that I did for the Source Audio. It was neat because it's one of those pedals that's really different. It's not for everybody, but for like more industrial kind of like, you know, when you want a distortion that's different and it's not a traditional big muff or you know, fuzz or whatever, it definitely fits the bill. Like, the deal with the multi-wave distortion is that it would separate using some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like crossovers, and digitally, it's a digital distortion. It'll use crossovers to distort all the different frequencies separately, and it's a very different sound than distorting everything at once. It had a kind of like I don't know how to describe it other than modern sort of industrial, and it had a pretty sophisticated EQ in it too, so you could really fine tune the presets and the distortion. And I thought it sounded really cool. You know who had an amazing tone? Rick Emmett. I was listening to Triumph's Surveillance album, and that opening song, "Never Say Never." Wow. I haven't heard that. I'm gonna go and YouTube. I'm gonna find that, or maybe I should check it on Apple Music. Better later. I'm just gonna call it up for later so that I don't forget. Browse Triumph. I'll listen to it. I like Rick. He's awesome. Great guitar player. As usual, Apple Music's being stupid. Oh, there we go. Triumph artists. There we go. Sorry, it was operator error. My fault. There's a picture of them. Rick in his Montreal Canadiens t-shirt. All right, I'll check that out after. Go another, probably go till 15 minutes more or something like that. And then I'm going to jet, get some work done. I'm going to keep making the video for the Cyclone Crazy Tube Circuits pedal and keep moving on. I've got lots to do, so I'm way behind on the videos. All right. I heard something about a new pedal movie coming out. Yeah, Reverb made a movie, I think. So Stealth Parrot. I watched the trailer for it. It looked pretty interesting. I would agree. Let's see. There was a great scene in It Might Get Loud. Modding guitars is a big part of the joy of playing, in my opinion. That's sure been for me since 1984, says T-Myth73. Yeah, modding guitars is so much fun. I used to get so excited. I can remember like in high school because a new pickup would have come out. And, you know, I remember getting in a car accident, like driving down to pick up a blues Saraceno. I know blues now, so he'd probably be like, oh no. But yeah, I remember racking up my car, like driving down to Mother's Music in Edmonton to pick up the blues Saraceno Trembucker. I was so excited to get it after school, and it was probably not. I braked a little late, and somebody hit me from behind. That sucked. But anyways, I remember just being jazzed at that. I remember meeting Duncan at he came and did a clinic, which there wasn't a lot of back then, like guitar clinics, and he came and did kind of a clinic and a Q&A and stuff at Mother's in Edmonton. I remember meeting him, and that was so exciting for me to meet Seymour Duncan. I was like, blown away by that. And I was like 16, telling stories about Jeff Beck and Albert Lee and stuff. Recent That Pedal show jams have included some inspired playing by Dan and Mick. Makes me want to play and create, says Alan. I haven't seen too many other videos lately. I should watch more. I've been a little tuned out of YouTube, in case you haven't noticed. I haven't been making that many videos, and maybe I was just a little burned or something, and then going on the road and having other things to do, I just kind of didn't really watch or pay attention that much, and maybe I just needed that. And now I'm back at it, and I've got ideas. As of this morning, I've got like 3 ideas for videos I want to do, and there's certainly a bunch of demos I need to make and stuff. So back at it. Planning any changes for your pedal board after your tour, says Rocamp. I don't know. There's a couple little things that were getting dodgy. There's a jack I need to get fixed and stuff. So we'll see once I get everything back here. But I'm actually really enjoying the configuration of the board right now. And, I've got the Unit 76 on there and the Big Muff, which is great. And occasionally I miss I've only got one slot there for the fuzz, so I'll miss the hyper fuzz sometimes. Being on there because I took it off to put the Big Muff on because it was an appropriate thing for the version of Comfortably Numb that I was playing on this tour. But can't have it all on there at the same time. My pedal board's pretty easy to kind of pull things off of and put things back on. So pretty, not a big deal to switch things out. I'll probably just, long story short, I'll probably just roll with it for a while as is. Yeah. Let's see here. Tim Berry says I got cool nerd glasses. These are my nerd glasses. It's true. I gotta get better contact lenses, man, that are more dialed in, because I can see with my glass. I have glasses when I'm not wearing my contacts. They're very thick and stuff, but I can see quite well with them. And with the contacts that I have, anybody out there wear contact lenses? They're called toric lenses, which means that they're for astigmatism too, and they actually turn in your eye and sort of focus, almost like you would a camera lens, right? When you're focusing, turning the camera lens. And the toric lens has to sit just right on your eye. And I feel like mine are not sitting just right. When they sit just right, I can see perfectly, but then you blink and they go a little bit out, and then everything's out of focus, and then I need these. You guys know when I hear about my problems. I got to get that worked on, though. Let's get some better. Daniel says, how do you stay in shape while touring? Well, if there's gyms and hotels, I do like to do that, which there wasn't a lot of on this tour, so I didn't really. But I walked quite a bit. On days off or in the mornings and stuff, I'll try and walk at least a couple miles a day. Now, Wayne Banks, the bass player on the tour, who turned 50 while we were on tour, he was inspiring the hell out of me, because he would run like 5 miles. I'd be just getting out of bed, and he would show up running back at the bus, like drenched and sweaty. Would have just run 5 miles and in the cold. He's got like no shirt on, and it's like 4 degrees out or something Celsius, and he's just to come back from a run. I'm like, I felt like such a loser, And they would also, him and Jesse, one of the singers, they would do sometimes the insanity workout, and I could hear them practically like crying. They were working out so hard, in the next room from mine or something in a venue. And that just was really impressive. But I do eat right, I don't eat a lot of crap, and I do walk a lot. So, what guitars did I take on tour? Just a few. I had my new red Suhr Classic. I had my garnet red Suhr Signature model. I had my Gilliaran, the 59 reissue. I had a Mac Mall T that I just used on a tune, and I brought over my Ocean Turquoise Signature that James actually used, the other guitar player, because he needed a guitar like that. He didn't have one exactly. I think he's going to end up getting one from Suhr. But so I brought those guitars over, and then James lent me an acoustic Attack Mini that I used for the whole tour, and actually screwed up on the last night. That drove me crazy. But something about the cable I was using with the no pop end and the jack on this particular acoustic, and it just didn't play well together. And I don't know if the battery was dead or what was going on, but the last night and we were filming too, and I couldn't get the acoustic to work on. It worked on one song, and then the second song, which was Ramble On, that I play it on, it wouldn't work. And so I just had to grab an electric, and I ended up grabbing my Suhr and playing electric on it. So that's probably what'll be on the video, I guess, is I just played kind of a semi-dirty tone, and it'll be fine. But, would have been nice, to have the acoustic on it. But anyways. Yeah. Loved all those music stores on White Avenue, says Troy. That's where I grew up in Edmonton. He's talking about White Avenue. There was Mother's Music, Lilo's Music, which is still there. And Axe Music was another one as well. And I used to ride my bike down there or drive my car down there once I was old enough to have a car. Saturdays, and hang out at the music store. And that's where my Charvel Jackson came from, and from that store, and a whole bunch of guitars and pickups. Yeah. I guess you're talking about when I went to Mother's for the Seymour Duncan clinic. That's where it was, down there on White Avenue. So yeah, all the music shops. It was still a cool little strip down there. There's a lot of pubs, and I was staying down there recently on White Avenue in Edmonton, and there was a punk band playing on a Sunday night, and pretty cool. There was a bunch of bands, actually, now that I think about it, in this pretty cool pub. And I thought, that's cool, man. Sunday night, there's it was 3 or 4 bands playing all in succession. And I went in and listened for a little while because I was staying in a hotel across the street. It was good to see. Some music scene going on there. I miss the 80s, says Alvin. Me too, sometimes. I do. What else we got here? Dragooni says, you're great. You're noble. You're the God King of the guitars. I don't know about that. That would be Leo Fender and Les Paul and Ted McCarty. and then players like Jeff Beck and Eddie Van Halen. But thank you. I'm glad you're here. Pete says, what are your thoughts of players like John Sykes, Gary Moore, and Michael Schenker? Love them all in their distinctly European rock style. That's from Rob Butler. All those guys that you mentioned, one thing that runs through them all is that Euro sound, right? And I love that. Like Michael Schenker, so melodic, but their melodic sense was different than American guitar players. I always felt like they had a more, I don't know if it's modal. There's a fiery kind of classiness to the way that all those guys played. Sykes, Gary Moore, and Michael Schenker, like them all, very much. Different than the American kind of, and I always think of those guys as being the kind of like, okay, you got your first tier guys. I'm just talking about sheer popularity here, and probably not about how well they played, but I mean, you've got your Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page, and then you've got what I considered to be the sort of second tier of popularity, which was like Brian May and David Gilmour and guitar players like that. And then you've maybe got the third, which to me was guys like Schenker, but Schenker should be included almost with those guys. Like I feel like Gilmour and stuff, and maybe they just didn't have as many hit songs or quite the longevity as like a shorter period where they were. But I feel like, and certainly Gary Moore. Then the amazing thing about Gary Moore is he really, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. He had such a brilliant career transformation in the 90s where he started doing the blues thing. It was great for his age and great for his, like really age appropriate. I'm going to go play blues now and really kick ass at it. Because I thought of Gary as being like a rock guy, playing Victims of the Future and all that stuff. And like those, when he, and he did Thin Lizzy and all that, but then he kind of had his own, but to make the transition, when you think about it, is really incredible. Like think about it. Not a lot of other guitar players did that transition that Gary made from the early 80s, 82, 83, 84 period, sort of hard rock, shreddy Euro guy, and now a blues guy playing in the 90s, very successful blues career. It was brilliant, and so he almost stands alone in his that is just really smart. I'm always fascinated when people can have a long career and make it work and stay relevant. Jeff Beck's another one I find fascinating because he goes away and then he comes back and then he just and then he put out a record and then go away for a few years and put out another. He's so consistent and yet not overwhelming you with stuff all the time. Never seems to burn out. There's this really cool long arc to his career that's really impressive. Nobody probably is a better example than Beck. Cecil says, are the Wilkinson locking saddles available separately? Those would be the saddles that go on the bridge of my signature guitar. Yes, they are actually available separately. I believe you have to buy them direct from their web store. And as far as what bridges they'll go on, that's a good question. I'm not sure about exactly what they'll fit, but that's a question for them. But they do sell them separately, yeah. Yeah. It was Stevie, says Buzz Krumhunger. SRV was the biggest reason for the blues to come back in the 90s. Certainly he inspired so many and put the blues at the forefront of, even playing with Bowie right at the beginning of when people, it wasn't the beginning of his career, I guess, but beginning when he started to become popular and Let's Dance came out, and there was those blues licks on what was, the hottest kind of radio rock of the day. That really helped. I think he kept people like, certainly raised awareness of folks like Buddy Guy and, even Clapton and stuff. Clapton was like, sort of think of Clapton as more like at that point, almost more like a singer-songwriter that just had guitar solos in his songs. But then Stevie coming along and, was like pushing the guitar to the forefront a little bit more in the blues style and making people appreciate it for sure. Yeah. Beck is one of those incredible field players. Yeah, he's just like made beautiful music, didn't he? Less about guitar licks and more just about beautiful tunes and playing melodies. Born in the late 80s, looking back at so I like looking back at video rock history. Agree. I was born in the early 70s. All right. Well, probably split here pretty soon, guys. About another 5 minutes or something. And Pete, is Mark Knopfler first or second tier? That's a great question. Mark's almost like I don't think about him like a rock guitar player, really. He's like in a category all his own, I feel like. But he's certainly in that when I think of, British Brian May, David Gilmour. Came a little later, but there's more like late 70s, early 80s, whereas the other guys were all like getting going in the early 70s. But I guess it's only a 5-year spread, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, he definitely, to me, would fall into that category. But Mark's, this is such a tough one because all those guitar players, David Gilmour, Brian May, Mark Knopfler, they all sound so signature, and you'd know them right away, like hearing they're playing. Mark, I mean, you just know instantly when you hear him on the radio. So, whether or not you know what I mean? Just his like interesting style of playing is so unique. Thank you for your insight on those players. I totally agree, says Rob. Thanks, man. Yeah, I think a lot about that, like, where all these people fit in. And Schenker is just another, it almost feels like he should be more famous than but I guess it's just a matter of like, UFO. I mean, I think it's probably one of those situations where he's way more well-known in Europe. And it's not that he wasn't well-known in America, but way more well-known in Europe, maybe. And certainly Sykes is probably like that too, right? I would think. I wish he would come out with something, John Sykes, because I really like he's just got this, I mean, he's real melodic, but I love his ballsy sort of, I'm not really like so much of a shred fan these days, but I love when that guy tears into that aggressive kind of, I don't know, he's like a ripping rock star kind of guitar player, and I love that distinctly European slant to his, when he plays a solo and really tears it up, It's less about shred and more about attitude or something. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes I put on, like Cold Sweat in my car and just drive really fast. I love that shit. I put my money in a suitcase, heading for the big race. The solo on that. Anybody know how to play that first lick? The lick when it's like a ripping lick at the beginning of the solo for Cold Sweat. I don't know. That's what I'm talking about. That attitude that he has in that solo. So cool. Yeah. Or Yuli John Roth, says Alvin. Yeah, Yuli. Yeah, I got to jam with him at Guitar Summit. Like, it wasn't this last year, it was the year before. A very interesting guitar player. And I remember Phil X met him there too. And then he had Phil go to Japan with him and sing. Because he needed a singer, and they met. And so one of the cool things about those things, I guess, is just making friends, meeting people and stuff. But anyway, we were all on stage for the jam at the end, and I was standing right beside Uli, and he leaned over to me and he said, "I'm very sorry, my amp is very loud." And I said, "I know, I love it. I don't care. It's awesome." But I always remember him apologizing. But he plays like 100-watt. Might be a Laney or something, but it's a plexi basically, and that's part of his sound. And then all the effects are in the guitar, that crazy Sky guitar he's got, and it was loud. It was ripping loud. It sounded great. I mean, I love that. But he doesn't turn down. He does what he wants. Let's see here. Ben says, "Can we get to 200 thumbs up for Pete?" I'm gonna hit it. I'm gonna thumbs up my own video. Oh wait, I can't. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. L. Scott Music. Lauren says Phil was cool with me at NAMM. I just saw him last week. He is a fun dude. He's a sweet guy. He's playing Gibsons now. Do I like The Damned, says Steven. I don't know much about The Damned, to tell you the truth. I should learn more. Maybe I'll go listen on That'll be one of the other things I go listen to after I get off of here. Uli plays Black Star these. Oh, maybe that's what it was. It was a Black Star. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry. Apologies to the Black Star folks. It wasn't a Laney. It was a Black Star. But it was basically a plexi. Remember, it was like a 4-input plexi they'd made for him. Sean Murphy says that he met Phil X when he was with the Canadian band Frozen Ghosts in the 90s. That's right. He used to do that. He's been around for a long time, man. I remember him. I remember Phil. I probably told this story on here before, but I went to a movie premiere. A girlfriend of mine was working on a movie called Heartbreakers that was with Sigourney Weaver and God, I'm having like a elbow. I'm having kind of like shocks in my hand a little bit. It sucks. I don't know if it's carpal or if it's like, I think it's my elbow. It always goes away when I warm up, but when I'm not warm, I have like a little nerve pinch. Shitty. Always goes away when I warm up. But it just happened like right now a couple times. I think it's my elbow. Yeah, cracking. Gross. Sorry. I think through here, I think is, yep, I can feel that in my fingers when I'm right there, like nerve. All right. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. Sigourney Weaver and Lindsay Lohan, I think, was in it too. Maybe? No. Some other actress. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Movie premiere, and it was in Hollywood. So I went to the premiere. This would have been 1999 or 2000. And I remember going to the party after the premiere. I also remember Eric Idle and John Cleese standing there talking. And I wanted to go over and say hello so bad, but I didn't get up the nerve to do it. But anyways, and all of a sudden there was like fake snow coming down on us, or confetti or something. It was like coming down. I was like, where's that coming from? And I looked up, and it was Phil X, and he was up on a balcony, and he was working. Like they'd hired him and his wife, who had a band called Powder in LA back then. And they were standing up on a balcony like 3 stories above us, and they were like, throwing I don't know what the purpose of the confetti was. I can't remember, the fake snow or whatever it was supposed to be. I just remember getting like, where's that stuff coming from? And I looked up and I pointed at him, because we used to play sometimes in the same clubs and stuff. And he'd gotten hired to, work that night. Now look at him. He's like a guitar player in Bon Jovi and doing his own band and kicking ass and stuff. That was 20 years ago. So he's a survivor, that guy. He's a great energy. I mean, I watched him play this week at Wednesday night at the Lucky Strike, and he jammed some Hendrix with Doug Pinnick, and he's got his, I don't know where he gets his energy from. It's crazy. Give me some of that. I'll have what that guy had. Kieran says, hi, Pete, got to meet you in Liverpool after the classic. Oh, and then the chat just jumped. Got to meet you in Liverpool after the classic rock show, and I didn't see the rest of what you said, but I'm glad I got to meet you, and that was a great time, and you keep on rocking. Come back and see me here again on Sundays. Doesn't appear Wilkinson has their own website. Can't find the locking bridge anyway, says Ian. The saddles are available somewhere online. I know that. I don't know where exactly, but somewhere you can get those saddles online, because people have ordered them. Maybe somebody can help you out here. Somebody else that knows. Sykes plays like Coverdale sings, says Hal Face. I think Sykes sings like Coverdale sings. I think Sykes is actually maybe the stronger singer out of the two. I loved Blue Murder. And I wonder if he can still sing like that, because he was a kick-ass singer for sure. I think Schenker and UFO were much bigger in Europe. Definitely. As Pete says the same thing, says Buzz Cheeseburger. Yeah, or Buzz Crumhunger. Cheeseburger. Crumhunger. Yeah, Sykes sings his ass off too, says Glenn. Yeah, definitely. Band in Germany somebody's talking about called Dire Strats. That's awesome. That's a cover band that does Dire Straits tunes in Germany. That's cool. This is cool. Everybody's giving good advice for things to listen to and check out here. Deep Purple, Under the Gun, 1984, I think, on YouTube. Richie Blackmore is in a zone. I'd love to see that. He was playing great then. That was around the time that Perfect Strangers came out or whatever, right? That album. That was cool. I liked that music. Good stuff. What else we got here? Any other comments? Gaucho says, we love you, Pete Thorn. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for your time and dedication you give us guitar nerds. Hey, you guys are here too. I appreciate you being here in your time. Thank you. Thank you, man. And let's see. Mark Scott says Gary Moore Live from London was recently released. It's all blues. Not sure when it was recorded. I'd like to listen to that. UFO was on the verge of blowing up when Schenker left the band. He has always walked away from fame. It seems that way, kind of, right? Aerosmith and Ozzy were courting him, and he bolted. That would have been interesting. Michael Schenker and Ozzy. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Aerosmith, no. See, that's that American thing. Whereas I could see him with Ozzy. Although, okay, Randy Rhoads, but he had a distinctly European and probably influenced by Schenker sort of style. You know what I mean? That modal kind of, like, yeah, he played blues licks, but it was super modal too. And Randy kind of was a student of that. And even though he was a kid from California, I think of him as almost having a more European sound. I was just a classical guitar student too, so that all makes sense because that was where he was drawing from a lot, which is, you know, when I think of Schenker and that more modal, I think Schenker and Ozzy, that probably pretty cool. Okay. Hey, they're both still alive. They should both do something together. This is a thing that could happen. What's the lowest wattage tube amp you would use for a big gig? Well, I've been using the PT15, and that seems just about right for what I'm doing now, to be honest. Yeah. Stealth Parrot says, ever met Paul Gilbert? He seems like a genuine fun guy. I should say one more thing about the wattage thing. Not all low wattage amps are, you know, I had my doubts, like, was 15 going to be enough? And turns out, sure enough. And it's really just the way John Suhr engineered that amp. It's not a typical 15 watt amp. It's got headroom on the clean channel. And, you know, when I think of 15 watts, many times I'm thinking about an AC 15 or something like what's a Princeton, like 12 watts or something. And they never seem like, for anything over a really small club or a low volume kind of gig, that would be enough headroom. But my amp's different. I don't know how John did it, but but if people out there have tried them, I'm sure they can attest. It's got a different kind of thing to it. So it depends on the design of the amp, is what I'm saying. You know, some amps 18 watts might seem too quiet. A Suhr Badger 18 is a little limited on volume and headroom to me to play with a live loud drummer, just for me, to be honest. The PT15 sounds like it's got more volume and clean headroom to me than the 18 watt Badger. Different design though. You know, the Badger's designed, I think, almost to that sweet spot, edge of breakup thing. So if I wanted it clean, you know, I remember thinking the 30 works better for me in a Badger for the volume. So yeah. I remember going to Phil's open mic in Toronto back in the day. It says Shiny Obese. Yeah, I know, we all live down here. It's so crazy. Montrose is an underrated guitar player. Yeah, I would agree. He's another one, like kind of super underrated. Like a big influence on Van Halen and stuff. Did Pete say what color of blue? This is like Placid Blue, I think. That's what they called it anyway, I think. Yeah. Who else do we got here? I'm going to go soon, guys, but I'm just trying to get to the end of the chat here and trying to... ulnar nerve, says Kevin. Is that what I got going on? Ulnar nerve weirdness in my elbow? Kind of sucks. Like, every now and then I get like this, you know, just sharp, or it feels like, you know, like you feel the nerves in your hand, you know, where they get that little electric shock kind of thing when you're doing certain things playing. And then if I warm up, it goes away. Generally speaking, it does. I hate that feeling. It sucks. Yeah. Lindsay Lohan from Fleetwood Mac, says Evan. You know, Christine McVie from yeah. Buzz Crumhunger says Arlen Roth, such a sad story. What happened to Arlen Roth? I don't know anything about him in a sad story. I remember Arlen. His lessons were always, he was a great educator. Really terrific lessons. Elliot Easton is underrated, I feel, says Stephen. I loved his solos, man. I mean, his solos were wonderful. Like, such a great part of the song. When you think about the solos on Just What I Needed and stuff, they were so funny and kind of like, I don't know, they added a lot. You know, it wasn't just filling space, that's for sure. Definitely a cool guitar player. Roland Cube Amps, your thoughts? Quick answer. Wade Jones says, great little practice tools. No reservations about it. I've got a micro cube somewhere still that I've had since 2006 or something. It's a great little amp. Just get tickets to see Lando in Austin with Kirk Fletcher and Eric Johnson. Reckon that'll be any good? That's killer. April 4th. Mike's going to see that. Man, that's going to be a hell of a show. I would love to see that, actually. God, Kirk Fletcher, Eric Johnson, and Lando. That's Guitar Meltdown. Amazing. Yeah, I love Kirk. He's great. I always liked Eric, and Mike is, to me, the greatest guitar player on earth. So, yeah. All right, going all the way to the end here. During the heyday of the Hot Licks videos, his wife and daughter were killed in a freeway accident. God, that's awful. That's why Hot Licks ended, more or less. Wow, that's terrible. I didn't know that. That's a hard... so that's Arlen Roth. Wow, what an awful story. Man, he was a great educator. I mean, I learned many things from his videos, and I always liked his working man kind of approach to, you know. I remember reading a thing about him, like talking about gear and how he used things like PV Classic 50 amps, and just he was really into, you know, the less into boutique and more into, before boutique was boutique, but more into, you know, using the tools to make money and feed your family and that kind of thing. You know, I remember him talking about that. And so anyway, that's a sad story. Best Friend's Girl is Smoking Hot Country Lead. That is a great one. Great. Yeah, that one and Just What I Needed, I think both had really cool solos, right? Yeah. Elliot was Berkeley, but didn't sound Berkeley. Yeah. Pete, play some melody with heavy touch. I can't right now because I got to go. I enjoyed Saldano's interview. He kept slipping into Geek Speak. He seems like a really great guy. I've only met him a couple times, but he seems like a good dude. BW Ninja says it's medial epicondylitis, pain and inflammation in the tendons, forearm, inner elbow, golf elbow, ice area. Rest and stretch and strengthen forearm. Yeah, generally if I stretch, it helps. I don't think it's not like really bad or anything like that. Like I don't have to, no, it's not. It's something that if I stretch and then if I warm up, then I don't have any issues. So, but if I don't do that, then when I first pick up a guitar and I'm cold, if I try and do something really technical, I'll feel this nerve thing in my hand. It's disconcerting and uncomfortable. I don't like it. All right, guys, I got to split. Everybody have a great week. I'll be back here next week, same time, same place. And you guys rock on this week. You'll see some videos from me this week on this Cyclone Phaser, coming soon, the Infinity 2 Looper. I've got some other pedals here. I got to give a shout out to these folks from Italy because they've been waiting for this video for a long time from me. An Origin Tremolo and Cali 76 new version I got to do videos of. This is a whole bunch of stuff to do, but this pedal is kind of interesting. It's a modeling pedal. I think there's amp models in it too, but mainly what this thing is supposed to do is kind of unique is guitar modeling. So you can take a Telly and make it sound like a Les Paul or et cetera, right? Maybe acoustic, I don't know, maybe like piezo, and I'm not sure if it does that stuff. I got to get into this, but anyway, this is from Italy and looks really interesting. And I was thinking, like, for something like when I was doing the Queen gig and trying to do those interesting Brian May pickup combinations, wouldn't it be interesting if out of like my signature guitar, I could get some of those sounds out of a pedal like this, if that was possible. So I have yet to experiment much with it, but it's called the Sim 1 Sound Imprinting. So I'm going to get into this and should be, making a video for for this pretty soon. And it just shows how to like, it's interesting. All right. Oh, somebody's up there in the top chat. It's Evan Ward. Hey, man, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm going to have a coffee on you. I am. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks to all of you. And I'll see you next week, okay? You guys have a terrific week. You know, you got me up above 200 thumbs up. I appreciate that. And go on 159.55. I'm going to push the end stream button right at 2 hours. Here we go. Bye. Have a great week.